Are you planning on racing Ironman Western Australia this December? If so, this is the video for you because in it you will have the chance to listen to two very experienced coaches and a local expert on this track. And we'll go through all you need to know for the swim, the bike, the run, and we'll give you some transition tips. We'll give you some equipment recommendations. So buckle up. This is going to be epic. And so who the hell are we? Well, my name is Coach Steve, ironically enough, same as my partner here, but I'm an actual YouTuber and an Ironman certified coach, and I do these race reviews and try to talk to local experts who actually know the course inside out, and therefore we get the real ins and outs and what it's really like on the ground. So in this, I've managed to catch up with Coach Steve from was it Australia, who's going to talk us through the Western Australian course. Steve, how are you doing? And give us a little bit of background to yourself so the crowd know who you are. But I think you're already pretty famous in Australia, aren't you?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm the Triathlon Australia Coach of the Year a couple of years ago. We run St Kilda Triathlon Club down in Melbourne, and we have a good handful of athletes heading over to Busselton this year to compete in the Ironman and the Half Ironman event on the 1st of December, I believe.
Fantastic, cool. So you've got boots on the ground, and you've got lots of guys who've done this course before, so you know it inside out, I'd say.
Yes, yeah, I've done it myself too. I believe it was my first one, so it's fond memories.
Nice, excellent. Well, the first one's always a good one, isn't it? It's a PB guaranteed. Well, as long
No
as
pressure.
cool. So let's get straight into it, Steve. Um,
Yep.
swim course. What we got going on here? A two-lap course into the beautiful Australian Sea.
Yes, yeah, it's going to be an amazing day. I had a look at the long range forecast. I think it's going to be 22 degrees, 11k an hour winds, so it's going to be a spectacular day for racing. The swim course, beautiful ocean out there, very clear water. It is a two-lap course, so you need to be prepared to jump out after the first lap and have a quick run across the sand before you jump back in for your second shorter lap. Um,
Which
there
I'm,
are it's
I'm absolutely delighted because I know we've done a couple of reviews, and this is the first Australian course that actually has an Australian exit. So, like,
yeah,
you guys invented it, but you stopped doing it. But we still have an Australian exit here. Perfect. And
it's not much fun. The heart rate does spike a fair bit during them, but yeah, no, it's good. So you need to practice your running across the sand, going from horizontal to vertical. The blood's going to want to get to the legs, so the heart rate may spike. So just practice having a bit of a run halfway through a swim if you're doing some open water swim practice. Um,
great tip. And in terms of the water, does it tend to be choppy on the day? Is it nice and smooth, or is that weather dependent?
it is weather dependent, but by the look of it, it looks like it's going to be a very, very flat day. Very good day for a swim out there.
And
Yeah.
typically, historically, has it been a wetsuit legal swim, or is there a history of it not being?
No, usually wetsuit optional. There have been a couple of really hot bussos in the past, like I'm talking 5 to 10 years ago. But this one looks like it's going to be wetsuit optional.
Fantastic. And in terms of another question, we get a lot of newbies asking: will I be meeting the biggest jellyfish in my life, or is there anything that's going to eat me out there? And I think it's a fear that we have about Australia. You've got some really cool things in the water, but how is it in terms of wildlife in the water?
There is a bit of wildlife in the water. You may see a very small stingray floating along the bottom, but you'll be swimming, so there's no need to panic there. It is a jetty. You actually swim underneath the jetty there. So there could be a few fish hanging around underneath the pylons. You'll notice that the swim is now sort of perpendicular to shore, outwards, and then goes horizontal to shore. It used to go out along the length of the jetty, but they had to change that because there were some undesirables in the water at some stage. But you're very, very safe here close to shore.
Cool. Okay. So in terms of, I think that most people be a bit nervous about. So we start off on the beach. It's a rolling start. We'll talk about that in a second, but it's the one loop out, back, and then you come out, and then this is our Australian exit we talk about, and then you come back in, and it's a new loop, and then
Yep.
marked in. How would they mark them out? Do they have different color buoys, or like how like people might get a bit nervous that they'll take a wrong turn?
Yeah. So the turning buoys are green, the sighting buoys are yellow, and then the internal second loop buoys are Ironman branded, so as they are there, they're white with the Ironman logo on there.
Cool. So a
Um,
bit of sighting and you can't go wrong, yeah?
Correct, yeah. Turn are the green ones, sight are the yellow ones.
Fantastic. Um, and in terms of the any kind of additional swim tips you give your newbies in terms of they're taking on their first 3.8K swim, they're a little bit nervous. What tips do you give to your guys going out for the first Ironman?
Yeah, if you're a little bit nervous about open water swimming, then a good thing to do is just to count your strokes as you're swimming. If you just count in your head whether you're swimming 3 to 5 strokes per sighting, just get into a rhythm, count your strokes, have a look. If you do get extremely nervous, drift out to the right hand side a little bit and you can lay on your back and do a little bit of backstroke. It's not going to be choppy at all, so you'll be fine doing that. And I would suggest, especially on this course where you can see at the very first turn and the second turn, which is labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. It's going to get crowded there. It's two turns very close to each other. So there will be a lot of people all converging in the same place at the same time. So if you're a little bit worried, just stay out to the right and stay out of all the mess of the turning cans.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's what I'd say to my guys as well. As in, yeah, the shortest distance is real close to the buoy, but that's for the very strong swimmers, and especially on a two loop course. You could have some of the pointy end guys. So yes, you'll take a little bit of time going wide, but you won't get that accidental contact, which no one wants. The faster swimmers don't want to bump into you, but and you don't want to get bumped into them. So 100% agree with you on that.
And
Um,
another cool tip is to make sure you put your goggles on underneath your swim cap so that if someone does accidentally knock them, then they're not going to fall off and hit the bottom of the ocean. So the cap will keep them secure.
Perfect, especially with these guys wearing these expensive form goggles. That would be a rotten start today. You're looking down the bottom. You're not gonna find your €400 bottle thing of goggles at the bottom of the ocean. Brilliant tip. The only other tip I would think as well would be quite useful, especially as it's an Aussie exit as well. And you mentioned it a little bit in terms of making sure you get the blood flow when you're going to go from being horizontal to vertical, kicking the legs a little bit more, slowing yourself
Yep.
down. And again, because as I said, you don't want to hop up too quick and get that kind of dizzy feeling. Especially as you're coming out here, you're going back in again, and the same for your exit. Um, in terms of the run to transition, is there anything else you want to add for the swim course, mate? Or
No, I think that's about it for the swim. Oh, one thing I noticed a lot we just did Melbourne 70.3 down the road yesterday. Oh no, sorry, Sunday. Um, don't run in the water. If the water's waist deep, start swimming. If it's a little bit too shallow to swim, then you can porpoise, so jump across the top of the water. But if you're running through water, then you're sapping a lot of energy for no gains. You're going so slow and just using a lot of energy. So practice your race entries and exits. So get down there early whenever you arrive, Saturday, Friday or Saturday, and just have a swim on the course and see how shallow it is and how far you can run, and then porpoise before you start swimming.
yeah, brilliant. And by the way, for the non-Australians, a porpoise is a dolphin. That's used
Dolphin.
for dolphin diving.
Yep,
Uh,
that's the one.
So yeah, absolutely. And I saw and we'll look a little bit about the schedule later on. It shows there are options for actually organized practice swims, but the beach is open anyhow, as in if you're down there a couple of, yeah, okay, great. And again, big fan of actually doing the practice swim just to get used to even sighting points, as in, as you said, the depth of the water, and what you're going to be walking on the way out. So transition, is this a long run to transition, or is it and do you guys have at full Ironman distance in Western in Australia, do you have wetsuit strippers like they have in America, or do you have to do it yourself?
In Busso, they do. They may not have the wetsuit strippers, but they do take your bike for you. So
Okay, cool.
it's
Actually, yeah.
and we'll get into this, I'm sure. But we've got the transition bags that you also need to worry about.
Yeah, cool. So, all right. So, definitely need to make sure that you're taking your own wetsuit off and all the rest. It's not like a Texas or not like an Arizona where you have these guys wetsuit. Sorry, they call them peelers. I call them strippers, but they say exciting. And so Australia, we DIY. We get out of our own neoprene. I like it.
They are
Again,
there to help you if you get in trouble, though.
yeah, absolutely. So there's a short run up to transition. We'll talk a little bit about transition now. But before we do, just for if it's your first Ironman, you do have cut-offs that you have to make. And for the swim, you from when you enter from the timing mat, you actually have 2 hours and 20 minutes to get it done. So bear that in mind. We'll talk a little bit actually on something that we referenced here previously, and we talked about a rolling swim start. So if you're new to Ironman racing, and hopefully you've done a couple of local Olympics, etc., but Ironman has a very specific way of getting people into the water. They call it a rolling or a seated swim start. So when you turn up on the day, you'll see corrals or little pens which you put in and numbers for times, and you're meant to seed yourself according to what you expect to swim the distance in. So there'll be under an hour for the fish, and then there's like all the human times with under 80 minutes, under 90 minutes, on all the way up to the 220 mark. And then you seed yourself where you think you will go. And you should know this from your practice swims, your long water open swims. You're not suddenly going to change from being a 2 minute per 100 swimmer to a 110 per 100 swimmer. So you have an idea. And this is how it works. Now, this isn't Brussels, but this is what a picture from one of the American races. Essentially, there'll be these gantries where you see our little volunteers here, and be nice to them. They've given up their day for you. And they will hold their arms like that until every 5 or 6 seconds a beep will go up, and they will lift their arms, and in go these four swimmers. These guys have just been let in, and they're going in, running in. As you can see, what Steve was talking about, these guys are just running until they can porpoise or dolphin dive, and then these guys will follow in. It's all very nicely streamlined. It means that we don't have that mass swim start that scared the absolute life out of a lot of newbies. Um, but it's the way forward. Tips for people seeding themselves in a corral, Steve. What do you tell your first timers or even your experienced swimmers? Where would you say to put themselves in and why?
Yeah, put yourself where you know you're going to swim according to your race, your training times. Ask your coach if you've got one; they'll help you out. A lot of people do come to these events having almost never swum in open water or in a wetsuit, so sometimes they're going to be a little bit out. But try your best to seed yourself where you actually are going to swim, because two things you don't want to do is have very slow people in front of you, because then you have to swim around them, and you don't want to underdo it, because otherwise you're going to get swum over the top of, which can be probably more dangerous, because people trying to pass you can be aggressive, and there's, getting dunked underneath, goggles knocked off, etc. So seed yourself where you think realistically you are going to finish, so that you're swimming with the same paced swimmers, and you're not slowing yourself down or slowing anyone else down.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's a really valuable point. And like swimmers aren't going to be naturally aggressive towards you in the water. Everyone knows that people are nervous in the water, but everyone expects to follow this honor system. So they're expecting if you're swimming backstroke or breaststroke and you've put yourself in with the sub-hour swimmers,
Yeah,
it'll it's not on purpose, but they're just going, look, you put yourself in the wrong way, and they won't, and they'll be unapologetic because you're getting in their way.
yeah,
The thing I'd add to that as well, Steve, is that I find if you're in a pack of swimmers roughly the same ability, you get that draft. As in, if you go in and you're whenever you suddenly decide you're going to be able to swim in, and was it 70 minutes where you're a 90-minute swimmer, um, all those swimmers get away from you very quickly, and you won't have that brilliant draft where you're essentially sucked along when you're holding on someone's feet. But if you're in with the 90-minute swimmers, you're more likely to find feet, you're more likely to actually save energy for the day. So 100% agree with you. Talk to your coach, figure out your training data, find out beforehand, know part of your race strategy, what corral am I going in, and set yourself up for a good day at the office rather than having a bump at was it some lad knocks off your goggles? Like stuff can go wrong if you're in the wrong corral, let's be very honest.
yeah, yeah.
Anything else you want to add to the seated swim start, Steve?
No, I think 105, under 105 is the fastest, and over 125 is the slowest. So, and there's four zones in total. So it's a fair range. So yeah, just try and pick the correct one and you'll be good.
Cool. Excellent. All righty. Okay, so we talked a little bit of well, Steve mentioned transition bags. It's another Ironman specific element of it. For those who've not done an Ironman race, when you're doing your local triathlon, you can just put everything together. As in, you've got your bike, your runners, your hat, your la la la. Because there's 2,000 plus people doing this race, and it's also the 70.3 is on the same day, so it's gonna be crowded. Ironman have a system where it means everything they operate a clean transition where you do not all you can have in your rack where your numbered rack where your bike is your kind of bike and that's it. The rest of your stuff will be put in a series of color coded bags, blue for swim to bike, red from bike to run. And there'll be a hanging rack system. Or do they rack them in Australia or are they on the floor?
When I did Busso last, there was a big wall of bags just hanging there, so you just find your number and away you go.
Cool. Actually, when I did the States, just, and they typically put them on the floor, like in Florida and Texas, they usually run. Whereas in Europe, again, we have this hanging system. You have the blue bags on top, the red bags on bottom. So it just means you're going to the same spot. So what does that mean when you're coming out of you're coming out of the water, you're taking off your wetsuit, and there's some little videos and tips on how to do that quickly. But we'll show the transition flow where you go past this rack and you'll have to. When you get your wetsuit off, you pick your blue bag, which again remembers your swim to bike bag, and then you'll take out your helmet, which will be in there. You'll take out your bike shoes, will be in there. Take out anything else you've got, whatever your race number, shades, whatever you need in there. And there's some items list here. You throw your wetsuit into the bag, and your goggles, etc., and you hand that to a volunteer, or you hang it back up again, and then you run off to the bike. There's also you guys do personal need bags or special needs bags on the Ironman?
Yes, we do. Yeah, they're at. I wrote it down. The what is it? 800 meter and 91 kilometer mark of the ride, and the 900 meter, roughly 11 kilometer, 21 kilometer, and 32 kilometer on the run.
Cool. So and with the bike person needs, it's slightly different. It's almost like a mini aid station, which you have to stop in and pick up your number. And it means you can put anything that's specific that you won't get the aid station you won't want to carry. For example, you can extra nutritional items, a spare CO2 canisters, sunscreen. It's very much a personal choice whether you use this. I I prepared three special needs bags in my life. I've never used them, so I just don't do them anymore. Do you recommend your guys use them, or do you have you used them in the past, Steve?
I have used them. I think it's probably better to organise yourself so that you've got all the nutrition and everything that you need on you and on your bike, so you don't have to slow down and stop and find your bag, undo it, etc. But I would pack one just in case, like you said, with a CO2 canister or some sunscreen or a spare pair of sunnies, bit of extra nutrition in case you lose yours along the way somewhere. You can just have it there as a just in case. Even maybe a can of some kind of carbonated soft drink that might give you a boost with caffeine in it. Whatever you like in there, just in case you are feeling flat and you do need that extra boost. So more of a just in case type thing than a planned one for the
Absolutely.
race.
I've never heard of someone having a PB race because of a special needs bag. I've heard of having them saving themselves on it. So it is good to have. And ideally, if all's going well, you probably won't have to see it because it is a kind of in case of emergency break glass. So those are the blue and the orange bags. We're going to talk a little bit about transition. Um, let's talk us through here, Steve. So this is our swim exit here. Um,
Yep.
the run. You said it's not. Is it a long run up? What type of surface are the guys running on?
Yeah, obviously across the sand and then a bit of grass, and it's anywhere there's gravel. It's got the blue mat on it, the Ironman blue mat, and yeah, it's quite a short run compared to a lot of races. You are directly on the foreshore there in transition, so you do have plenty of time to get the wetsuit down and goggles and cap off. Um, when you come into transition, those bags are hanging. The numbers on them are huge, so they are very easy to see. So don't be worried about that.
And not
Yeah.
before this change tent. It's along this run here, is it? Where they have the bags, or is it?
No, the bags are hanging in the change tent.
Okay, cool, excellent. In the change tent, where you can people can get the change, make a full change they want if they got tri suit on. And people panic about this because they say public nudity is a DQ offense. It's I've never seen anything unless someone's running around doing naked star jumps in transition. I've never seen it.
No, yeah, there are changing, like within the tent, there are changing tents. If you want to go get completely stripped down, dried off, and re-clothed, you can go into a little tent, a private tent, and do that if you so wish. Otherwise, there's just those plastic chairs where you can sit down if you choose and get yourself ready for the bike.
Cool. So
So yeah, like Steve, you said before that in those blue transition bags, blue for the bike, red for the run, is absolutely everything you need for the bike. So helmet, shoes, sunglasses, everything. The only thing that's in transitions itself is your bike with any nutrition attached to it. So make
yeah.
sure you've got everything in that blue bag, and they're not accessible on race morning. So once you rack it Saturday afternoon or whenever you rack your bike and special needs bag, your bike and transition bags, that's it for the transition bags. You don't get to access them again. So make sure you've got everything you do actually need in there on that day.
Oh, that's unusual. Does that mean you have to put your nutrition on the bike and leave it overnight? Which is
You can you can access the transition area, but you can't access your transition bag.
okay, so can't go to change tent, but you can actually get to the bike and put on your water bottles and your whatever gels and bike computer.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Excellent. So we'll talk a little bit of transition, but just the flow. Okay, so when you're coming out of the water, and as myself and Steve were saying, do a little bit more kick of your legs here because you're going to get your blood flowing. We're running up here, we're getting our wetsuit down to our waist. There's a video again on that, how to do that. Coming up here, we will go into change tent, we'll come out. Your bikes are all numbered and racked, so therefore you'll know where that is before. This is your mount line. You need to get over that, but with both wheels before you can actually. Oh, I don't think you have to have your helmet on before you can touch the bike.
That's
And
right.
then get over the mount line, and then off you are on the bike course. There's a lot to it. Transitions always panic a little people, especially in Ironman distance. What are your top top three tips for transition? And if you've more, you can chuck them at me.
Top three tips. First one, and the most important, I think, is just not to panic. Don't try and do it fast. Try and do it correctly. If you slow down and do everything correctly, you're going to be a lot faster than if you're doing it in a rush and forgetting something, having to go back, or something falls off, or you drop something. The last thing you want to do is drop a nutrition bottle or something and it spills everywhere, and you're down for the day. One bottle of nutrition or hydration. So take a deep breath, relax into it. You should have practiced it many, many times before. If you haven't, you still got 2, 3 weeks to go. So get out there and try and practice things, get a bit of muscle memory going. But yeah, just don't panic and don't rush. If you slow down, take a step back, and do it correctly the first time, then you're going to be a lot quicker than if you mess up a few things along the way by rushing. So,
Cool. Awesome.
uh,
I also noted
yeah,
there's transition tours on the schedule. We'll talk about that. I presume that's where they will walk you through it, and that's
yeah, they will. Yeah. So if you've never done one before, especially an Ironman or triathlon at all, go along to the transition tour for sure. They'll take you from where the swim exit is. They'll walk you through exactly where everything will be on the day. It just gives you a bit of a visual on the day, so that you're not going into it blind and not knowing where you're going.
yeah. And I
Um,
think people underestimate what the race brain is like. As in, you've come out of the water, you're feeling like a champ because the swim is the thing you're scared the most out of, and then you just want to
yeah,
get in your bike, and then you run in and you run past your bag, and you go like, and then you go run back for your bag, and then you sort of go, "Where's my bike? I can't remember where my bike is." So as you said, slow it down, smooth. You'll come out with a much better option. Um,
yeah.
and
And it is. I know it's an Ironman, and it's a long day out there, but you're training really hard, almost probably every day, to try and take a minute off your bike or a minute off your run. Don't take transition too easily either. Don't sit there and have a cup of tea. Get through transition quickly, calmly, but quickly, because you might take 2 or 3 minutes off your end race time, which is the goal is to go fast across the whole thing, not just the swim, bike, and run. So
yeah,
don't
and there's people there that we're looking at a 12:02 time, and they'll look at the transition time, and they'll come to us as coaches and go like, "But I lost 9 minutes in transition. Why? Oh yeah,
yeah,
well it was yeah, no, I was chatting to this guy, and like, no, it's with purpose. You're in race mode. You are very much
yep,
delighted you
transition.
survived the swim. You're kind of daunted by the bike, but just get going, smooth, plan it through, know what you're going to do, have it written down. Where's my bag? I tell my guys, take pictures of where you are. So like you'll know
Yep,
sort of the night before, where's my bike? It's actually right, like my bike's right in line with the change tent here. So I know that's where I'm running to. When I run there, if I've gone past that, I've gone too far. Look at the pictures. Where's the mountain line? And it just also calms the nerves a little the night before the race.
right, yeah,
Okay,
yep.
any other transition tips for us, Steve?
On the bike exit, you have to mount after the mount line, but there's no rule saying when you have to. So get out into your own space, continue running past the mount line until you are in your own space. There's no one in front of you, no one right next to you. There's going to be a lot of jelly legs there with people having done probably the longest swim of their life sometimes. And they're going to have these brand new bottle cages on the back of their seat, and they're going to kick that as they launch their leg over because they've never done it before. There's a bit of chaos there. So just keep running through that mountain line, and you're allowed to run the whole course if you like. So just keep running until you get into your own space where you have time and clearance to get on your bike and get going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've seen that loads of lads and people kind of veering into it. It's actually one of the more risky times. And so, yeah, no, get into it a space, make sure everything's nice and smooth. I'm going to add one last tip. Put on socks. As in a lot of people go, oh no, like if you've done sprints in Olympics, people go, wow, that's like around 30 seconds, 60 seconds lost. Socks are absolutely genius for T1 and T2. You want to avoid blisters. It's a long, long day out there. It's a little bit of comfort. You will thank us. So okay, so we'll move on to the bike course. Or is there anything else you want to add to T1, mate?
No, not going to go. Nope.
Beautiful. Okay. All right. Before we go anywhere, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're getting a lot out of it. Myself and Steve are enjoying imparting all the knowledge we have. Um, if you want, please like and subscribe the video itself. As I said, I do more race reviews and there's other tips. If you want to check out and actually get an absolute stellar coach in Australia to make sure you're PB shape for whatever other distance you are doing next year, make sure to check out Steve at davyblacktrathlon.com. He is one of their top coaches and coach of the year. So you're getting spoiled for choice. I was coach of the year as well, but a little bit further back. But I don't bring it up.
Claim it.
Well, that's it. How many often you're going to get like two coach of the years called Coach Steve? I think
Exactly. It's great.
it's awesome. Righty-ho. Bike course, 180k through Australia. Talk to us on this. What's the feedback on the course? Is it a fast course? Is it a hilly course? Road surface, etc.?
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful bike course. It's almost dead flat. The road surface is quite good. There are a couple of parts of the road where it's a little bit more granular than smooth, but nothing like, for example, the Irish roads with potholes everywhere. It's a fast, flat, smooth surface. The only thing with it is there are a lot of U-turns. You've got one coming out of transition, and then after that, there's 5 more U-turns per lap. So that's a complete U-turn. So you just need to be aware that you are going to be slowing down and speeding up a fair bit. So you can try and time your nutrition intake around those U-turns when you're going to have to slow down anyway. But try also not to be eating something in a hand when you're doing the U-turn. So just kind of have a rough idea of where they are and where they're coming.
Sorry, what's typically at? Is it literally a traffic cone, a couple of volunteers with flags, or like it? What do they
There's
have?
the big those plastic containers that stand upright, so you can't miss them. And there's volunteers there as well, shouting you around the corner. So they're quite big. You can see them from a fair way back, so you're not going to miss anything. And yeah, the volunteers will be there yelling you around the corner too.
Cool.
So yeah, be aware of people who aren't quite as confident on the bike around those U-turns. Try and keep out to the left-hand side a little bit. Cut the U-turn in if there's space to do so. So you're minimising the amount of turning you're doing. And yeah, gear selection's key going in and coming out. You don't really want to try and burn your legs too much being in a hard gear exiting the U-turns. So nice, slow, steady exits.
Yeah, and absolutely, and a communication is key. Or is that if you're going and you can see, you can tell the more nervous riders, as in like shout and not shout at them, shout I'm coming, I'm overtaking. You guys overtake on the left or the right?
Overtake on the right.
I'm taking it right. I'm coming on your right, coming on your right, as in like you're doing great. Offer positivity as well, so like they sort of know you're not being a dick about it.
Yep.
And it just means everyone keeps their nose clear. Looks it is it a flat course? There's a couple of lumps here, or is this our Ironman scale going playing?
Yeah, no, they just need to smooth their curve a bit. It's not lumpy at all. It's a very fast, flat course. You spend a lot of it along the beachfront, which is beautiful, and then you turn into the national park, so you get a bit of a change of scenery as well. You may see some native wildlife out there, maybe a lizard on the road sunbathing. So you can be aware of that if you're coming over to Australia for the Australian experience. You might get to see a bit around out there.
Nice one. And in terms of bike selection, if you've got a TT bike, disc setup, all the trimmings, it looks
Yeah, 100% fastest bike you've got. Disc wheel, absolutely. It's a course built for disc wheels, apart from the U-turns. And the winds, like the whole week leading up to the race, looks nice and calm. So there's not going to be any issues with wind.
fabulous. And as you said, road surface better than Ireland, says he, after living in Ireland, you can tell.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. All right. So it looks like a flat, fast track. Throw the kitchen sink out if you've got it. As in, don't worry if you don't have a TT bike, but do think of, and if you've tried it before, have clip-on aero bars to your road bike. Um, nice. Was it tuck position as much as possible? Any other tips or feedback on the bike course, mate?
Just the aid stations. There are, what was it? There's four of those. I think I wrote them down somewhere. 23 and 113k, 44 and 134, 67, 157. So pack a very old bottle that you have, your oldest bottle that you can find that's almost at the end of its life. Because as you go through those aid stations, you can throw that old empty one away, collect a new one as you go through. Pure Sports Nutrition is the hydration on course. It's a lemon flavour. So if you have access to that, go and try it and see what it's like. So it's not a surprise on race day. And the solid foods out there is Morton gels and bars. So also try that if you can. Probably best if you pack your own nutrition, what you've practiced with in the past, so that you know your stomach can handle it. But if you do get into trouble or you need more, then those aid stations are there for that.
Cool, excellent. A brilliant segue because we'll talk a little bit about aid stations. Before we do, just in terms of our cutoff times, for a swim, your transition and your bike time, you've got 10 and a half hours to get it done, or else you end up
So,
and then your day will end a little bit early. But from the sounds of it, it looks like a fast track. So again, get aero, pace yourself well, and keep up with nutrition. So as Steve has mentioned there, in terms of how the aid station work, aid stations are very unique to our Ironman race and endurance racing. The and this is the typical layout that you'll have. Um, I do like the way you guys call it rubbish. I've been doing American ones and they all call it trash, which I feel a bit weird. We call it rubbish as well. This between here and here are the only place you can drop off litter, throw bottles, etc. Ideally, you'll do it here because otherwise you'll be chucking it at volunteers who are very well manning the stations in between. But if you do it and you chuck it elsewhere and a marshal sees you, you'll be rightly disqualified because you're being a dick. We do not litter other people's countries. We're guests in their country. We respect it. So this way, if you chuck it between here and here, our man can tidy up and as if they weren't here in the first place. Then you've got your first aid. Hopefully you don't go near that. Toilets, if you need to, you can pull in. You can't drive to them, but you definitely have to pull in. And then you will have your water, your electrolyte, pure hydration, you said, is it? Sorry, which the
electrolyte is pure, yeah. Pure
pure.
Sports Nutrition. Yep.
And then the foods, there's typically normally bananas, Morton bars, Morton gels. Again, a second chance to get your electrolytes and water, and then you get out. Um, aid stations itself as an absolute skill. And as Steve was saying there, that it's important that you know what you're doing when you're coming in. You slow down. You can discard your old water bottle and get a new branded one. Do they have branded water bottles in Australia?
Yeah, it depends. I think it's either Ironman brand or probably Pure Sports, I'd say, this time. But yeah.
Cool. But there's other things you need to know because the aid stations are, whilst they're the life of your race, as you use them well, they can also be a very risky place. Because you think about it, there's around 2,000 cyclists on the course. People are coming in, people are dropping bottles, but people are dropping later because they can, but they might fall onto the course. There's volunteers, there's people coming at different speeds. It's key to get it right. So I have the video there below that will give you hints and tips about how to do this properly, safely, get in, get your fuel on board, and continue on. You're having an epic race. So watch that video in the comments below, but we will keep focused on the race. But it is key. Before we go, Steve, what's your top aid station tip to someone?
Practice. The Tour de France guys make it look very, very easy grabbing a full water bottle off someone. It's a skill in its own right. So find someone, a friend or a colleague or a mum or dad or whatever, get them to stand out on the road, an empty road preferably, with a full bottle in their hand, and you can ride past and try and grab it off them. Yeah, try and practice at least once or twice just to get the feel for it, because it is a little bit more difficult than you would expect. And also keep an eye out for people dropping these things, because they are very easy to. You've been riding along, busting your guts. You're not as strong as you normally would be either, so it's very easy to drop. And if you get a full 750 or 800 mil water bidden on the ground and you hit it with your bike, it's very easy to come
It'll
down.
be
So
game over. And actually,
be very
I did see on your social media you were actually out practicing with your guys, actually showing that, which is key. That's a great tip. Alrighty, so we will move on. We're now back to our transition. As I said, we discussed this is before. Now, this is now we're going from our bike to a run. So our red bag is the important one here. We have our black bag, which will be our run special needs, and that will be on course as well. But in the run bag, essentially you're getting in this, you'll be putting your helmet, your kind of you can leave your bike shoes clipped in when you rack it.
yeah.
But you'll be definitely coming out with your bike shoes, sorry, your runners, probably a visor, probably sunglasses, etc. Um, what do you any top tips for you what you have people put in the red bag, Steve?
The red bag, you need. I would put some sunscreen on in Perth, especially. It does get pretty hot in the afternoon when you're heading out for your run there. Probably some spray sunscreen would be the best option. Minimises the feel on your hands, and probably get a little bit more coverage than you normally would with the rubbing on stuff. Um, you must have your race number and your bib on in for the run. What I recommend, only if you've practiced it before and you find it comfortable, is you put it on under your wetsuit. So it's just one less thing you have to worry about, and you've got it on for the bike. You spin it around to the back for the bike, and then spin it around to the front for the run. But if you're not comfortable doing that, then 100% has to be in your run gear bag. So don't forget that when you're packing with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing as well, key thing. These things are fairly waterproof as well. Like people go, oh, will dissolve. No, it won't. It's made of, it's, I'd say it's probably
Plastic.
made of the same material you guys make your currency because it seems to be very waterproof.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Alrighty. So in terms of what this means, again, when you're coming in, again, now you've 180 kilometers in the tank and you're feeling great. This is your dismount line where you need to have the bike to a full stop before you actually get off the bike, and then you'll run in, you'll rack your bike in the same area where you had. So that it's, or is it?
In Ironman Busso, they have the guys there taking your bikes for you.
Oh, bike catchers,
Yeah,
fancy,
yeah,
love it. So that's one less thing to worry about. So you drop your bike off, ask them to service it, and could you do a little bit of paint job, and then we're off to the change tent again, where we do our red bag, where you, as your key tip, get the sunscreen on. My key tip again is make sure you put on new socks, dry socks. Do take 30 seconds, dry your feet because blisters in a marathon on an Ironman day is a miserable experience. Speaking from experience, and then we're out
yeah.
onto the run course. Anything else other than any other T2 tips you give your squad, Steve?
Yeah, I mentioned it before about people getting their leg over their water bottles on those rear bottle cages that are behind the saddles. A lot of people do come into an Ironman, and this is the first time they've ever used a rear saddle bottle cage because they think, oh, I need more nutrition. How do I do it? And that's a good way to do it. But what they don't consider is getting on and off the bike, because they probably never have had bottles in it and gotten on and off it before race day. So they're going to be absolutely knackered from riding 180 kilometres. They're going to try and throw their leg over. It's going to catch on those bottles and they're going to go A over T. So just be aware of those people around you. Slow down coming into transition if there's people around, because anything can happen. So again, this is one of those things where you want to sort of back it off and do it correctly,
Yeah.
because that's going to be a lot quicker than rushing it and messing it up.
Yeah, agreed. Now is not the time to try the postman's dismount for the first time. I don't know if you guys call it a postman's dismount, where you flick the leg over and then they run off, which the ITU guys and the WTT guys, they do it and it looks really slick. Now's the
Yeah,
time. Don't just stop, gingerly take the leg over and then run as quickly as you can. Um,
right.
okay, the other thing I said, and again, my friend said to me once, and it's becoming almost like a catchphrase to me. Nothing good happens in T2. As in, you get in, even though we're saying be smooth and be efficient in T1, it's even more vitally important that you're a little bit faster in T2 because if you sit down and you start stretching your hamstrings and you start, oh yeah, no, wow, it's a marathon. I've never run a marathon before. It becomes very daunting. If you just get in, get your race belt on, get your runners on, and if you have even your sunglasses and the sunscreen on, as you said, Steve, and you have your sunglasses and a gel in your cap, start running towards the run exit here. Because as you can put the hat on when you're running, you can get the gel in when you're running, get the shades on, and at that stage you've made it here. You're already 300, 400 meters in and you're moving. And that's more important than sitting down and going, oh, because those 4 minutes becomes 10 minutes, as you said, and we don't want to become the last lost in transition guy.
Yeah.
Uh, Anything else from T2 point of view, mate?
Probably another just in case thing is have a bottle of water in your red transition bag, just in case you do have some residual sand or dirt stuck on your feet. Because, like you said, the last thing you want is anything that's going to cause a blister.
Yeah,
So just have a bottle of water there to wash that sand off if you have to, and a small towel just to dry them before you put your fresh socks on.
perfect. Great tip.
Also, what do you call it? The talcum powder. It's very handy just to throw that into your runners so it absorbs any moisture that might be around to avoid blisters as well.
Fantastic. Love it. Righty-ho. Now we're on to this run course. Talk to us on this. It's 4 laps. It's obviously along the seafront. What's the run course like? From what's your feedback from your experience and from your guys and
Yeah,
girls?
it's amazing. Busselton puts on a great show. There will be people there at the local cafes and bars on the beachfront cheering you on. There's very little dead space there because it is a lap course, so it is quite contained. So there's a lot of crowds cheering you on. When that happens towards the second, third, fourth lap, try not to get too much of a rush of adrenaline as you're going through and getting cheered through. Stick to your paces and don't spike too much. It's a very flat course. So yeah, that's deceiving again down there with the graph.
We were having a
It's not.
chat beforehand. That looks ridiculous, but as you said, look, but as you pointed out, that's 5 meters. That's 5 meters. That's you won't even notice that.
Yeah.
They really need to go to whoever their map guy is. The road surface, is it tarmac, asphalt, concrete? What are we running on?
Yeah, bit of you're running on some kind of footpath, bike path for some of it, and then on the road for some of it. So it's not going to be a very hot day, so you don't have to worry too much about that. There's not much shade; it is very exposed out there, so I would 100% recommend wearing sunglasses and a hat. Throwing water over yourself as you're going through transition to cool yourself down. If you're not used to the warmer weather, it's not hot for Australians, but it could be quite warm for someone coming from their winter in the northern states, hemispheres. So be careful throwing water over your head that doesn't run down into your socks. So sort of lean forward a bit, get a bit of water on yourself, and yeah, keep
I love that because that is the danger, as in, as people putting water all over themselves and they end up like becoming saturated.
yeah,
And aid stations look like they're one every kind of 2 kilometers on the route and all the rest, so there'll be plenty of them and don't miss them.
yes, heaps of them.
Any other
And the A stations there, again, you'll have your Morton gels and solids, but they have excellent choice of, I think they have watermelon, pretzels, all sorts of delicious things there. So don't stop and have a picnic, but as you're running past, just grab something different and allow your body to taste something other than the pure sugar from the sports drinks and gels that you've been eating all day. It can be a bit of a lift to the system to get something different in your mouth.
Yeah, and also I find if they get something to chew and all the rest, it's different than just gloopy gels all the time, and you feel like your stomach can get bunged up. Pointing out here, this is from another picture. It's not mortal hydration. It'd be pure hydration again. Will be Morton. There will be Coke. Did you guys do Coke over in the state?
Yeah,
Australia?
yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's the golden fluid if you're feeling a bit down, and if you've tried it before. A lot of sugar and a lot of caffeine just to give you a bit of a kick.
Yeah, it's a little. We call it the rocket boost ourselves now. It can is that if you haven't tried it before, it can actually have interesting effects. But again, practice it. You know it's not going to give you a big shock to the system.
Yeah.
And what they do in a European race, they give out Red Bull, which I've no idea why. As in, like that stuff is not good, even on like when we used to drink it in college. But
Yeah.
it's it's so stick with what you know. But as you say, as you rightly said, Steve, make sure you're mixing it up. Um, Pacing it well. I think it's nice when it's a four loop course. Take the first kind of lap almost to kind of find your legs, get into rhythm. Second, third, and fourth, you're kind of hitting your race pace stuff, and it's going to be nice that you can count off the distance, and the rest you'll see different spots as well. And any other tips for the guys and gals doing the first ever Ironman marathon?
Yeah, just get your feet moving quickly, so a higher cadence. Try and get into a rhythm. So I always get my guys to get their breathing to match their footfall. So they might breathe in for 3 steps, out for two, or in for two, out for three, whatever suits you. Just try and find a rhythm so you're not fighting against your own body while you're trying to breathe and settle into your rhythm. Um, a faster cadence is a little bit better because you're using less energy, using more momentum and gravity to help you move forward. Um, Try and get a little bit of nutrition in early because it's always better to have that done early before this stomach becomes a little bit upset with all the jolting from running. So you should have done the bulk of your nutrition on your bike, and you might want to switch to less solid things for the run. I always used to have a little bag of jelly beans or lolly snakes or something just for the different flavors, just to keep things exciting. But yeah, it's also the hottest part of the day for the run. So if you're not used to the heat, just be aware of that. You lose a lot of energy from your body trying to keep yourself cool if it is a bright sunny day. So sunglasses, hat, sunscreen, and long sleeve potentially. Obviously, very thin material for the t-shirt over the top, or a long sleeve tri-suit would be a good idea.
Cool. Fab. Right, so it's a deadly little run course. Looks like a fast track overall. In total, you've got swim, T1, bike, and T2, and run. You've got 17 hours to get it done.
Yeah.
And again, it looks, again, pace it, feel right, make sure you have a strategy. You should be golden. And if you've done the training, and also if you've talked to great coaches like Steve, you will be absolutely set for a PB. So this is where it's going to happen at the finish line. Now we don't expect you to do it in 8.5 hours in your first one, maybe the 9 hour mark, but you'll be all right. This is the female winner, so she looks very happy. As you can see, great crowds, great red carpet. Looks like an absolute epic day out. Um, right. So some other things we're going to talk about just before we talk about the race schedule itself. Um, Myself and Steve have made reference to race day nutrition for it, which is key. If you mess it up on an Ironman distance, you won't get past halfway on the bike. So make sure you know what your strategy is. You should be tracking it now. I go through a lot more detail in the video in the comments below. It shows what to eat, how to eat. It sounds a bit daft, but it is a case of how you're going to transport the food, the bike, when you're going to eat it, getting your garment set up, etc. And again, the different options. Again, Steve made some great points about mixing up the flavors, etc. I talk about that in the video below. If you are coming abroad from the Northern Hemisphere, or you're coming even from the other side of Australia, which is probably as far as Northern Hemisphere, there's a packing list and a downloadable checklist for you there. And again, this is the time myself and Steve when was to earn our money when Ironmen are coming into taper and we get calls, we get emails, we get texts, we get WhatsApps. I'm losing my fitness. I think I'm getting sick. It's just taper madness. Make sure you watch that. That will be coming up important and what do, what and not to do. Other things, we have last minute tips, reading the race brief, watching this video again, telling your friends to watch this video, getting your bike serviced, making sure you pack your chargers, all that sort of good stuff. These make sure you watch these videos in the comments below, and it will set you up for a good race day. We're going to talk a little bit about the race venue. You can check in on the as early as the Thursday, but how often, if someone's coming from the other side of Australia to you guys, how much time would you advise that they arrive? How early?
The earlier the better. Obviously, everyone has jobs and families, etc. But if you can get there earlier and familiarise yourself with the location and the weather and that kind of thing, it's going to make for a much easier race day. You can get out the earlier you get there. You can go for a ride out on the course and see exactly what the roads are like and what the conditions are like. So yeah, being realistic, if you can get there on the Thursday or the Friday, that would be ideal. Then you're not rushing madly anywhere. And also nowadays, I'm not sure how long it's been, hasn't been that long, you can actually fly directly into Busselton now, so you don't have to fly into Perth and catch the shuttle bus or anything like that. So that's a good deal. Most people will have already booked their flights, but maybe for next year,
Yeah, absolutely.
fly
And then
directly to
also, as I
Busselton.
said, another thing you said we've discussed as well, you can get in practice swims, you can check out the bike course, the run course, and you can check out the the road surface, etc. So I agree, as in I get my guys. When I went to Florida, the race was on Sunday. I actually arrived in on a Wednesday because for me it was almost a jet lag acclimatization, the weather, etc. And nothing and things will go wrong in your lead up to a race, things will go wrong in your race, but if you give yourself as much time as possible, there's nothing that can't be fixed with a bit of common sense and a bit of
Yeah,
time. Whereas you
yeah,
turn up the day before and your bike is delayed or your bags are lost on a flight, that's not going to work. But if you turn up for the Thursday, you've got a few days for your bike and stuff to arise. And again, also before a race, it's minimizing stress, kind of get it done. Um, I also tell my guys, get to the expo early, but be careful for two things to be melted. One is your credit card, the other is your head, because you're looking around and you see all these people, they all look taller, they all look skinnier, they look all more powerful, and they go like, oh my God, I'm out of my depth. It's just pre-nice nerves. Just again, one of the other coaches said, I dropped a smile nod thing, is that they're coming in, some guys going, how many hours training have you been doing? You go, I'm happy with my training.
yeah, yeah, nice.
No, don't get into pissing contests with someone who's like,
It's your day, not anyone else's. So do you go run your own race?
that's it. And again, you've got a coach who listen, you'll know your strategy, you'll know your plan, and all the rest. As in, it'll give you numbers to stick to. Be confident, trust your process, and I guarantee you'll pass a lot of these big, tall, strong-looking lads stretching their hamstrings on the run. It's
Yeah.
always the way. Um, there's the practice swims on the Friday, the Saturday. There's Iron Kids, and these are these transition tours that you were talking about. So what they do in a transition tour, mate?
They'll take you through the whole course, explain the course where everything is, and especially walk you through the actual transition area. So they'll go from the swim exit, you'll walk up into transition, through the tent, out to the bike exit, and then back into the run. So you'll get a great feel for exactly what you need to expect on race day. So yeah, I'd highly recommend seeing one of those if you haven't already in the
Cool.
past.
And then also you check your bike in the day before on the Saturday.
Yep. So make sure that you check in just your bike. Again, it's not going to be a stinking hot day for this race, but deflate your tyres a little bit, pump them up again to pressure in the morning, A, so they're properly pumped up, and B, so that they don't explode if it does get hot on that Saturday during the afternoon. Um, and don't leave any bottles full of electrolytes or gels on your bike because that's just going to cook during the arvo. So you are allowed back into your actual bike area in the morning. So that's when you can attach your nutrition and your water bottles, pump your tyres. But your transition bags need to be packed completely and properly on that Saturday. So they're not accessible on the Sunday morning.
Cool. And one thing again, I can tip. One of my tips for that, if you can't access the transition bags because people panic, take a picture of what's going in the bag. You go like, did I put my sunglasses in? You go like, you pull back on your iPhone. Ah, the sunglasses are in the red bag. I'm good. Again, it's all about minimizing stress. And a tip I picked up, I'm picking up really cool tips from these videos and a couple from yourself already. Thank you very much, Steve. One of the ladies said she actually freezes her water bottles for hot races, the South African lady. So they actually puts in the freezer. So the ice, when she actually puts it on the bike, by the time she gets out from the water and onto the bike, they've melted 90%. So it's still ice cold and it's
Yeah,
beautifully refreshing on the bike.
yeah, that's a great idea. I'll give you a tip for that because I have done that in the past. The first time I did it, didn't really think too clearly and filled the bottle up completely. So make sure when you're freezing, you only fill it 3/4 full. Otherwise, you'll have a freezer full of electrolytes.
Yeah, or the bottle will explode. You know the way the ice will expand.
Yeah, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, cool. And in terms of our kickoff, you get access to transition, but as early as 4:15. Or your starting rolling course is at 7:15. The walk from transition to the swim start, not that far. How much time would you give yourself?
Oh, it's not far at all. So give yourself plenty of time. Give yourself 10, 15 minutes, but it is a very, very short walk. I will note that I think I'm not sure where you pulled the transition bag info from, but it did say to put your helmet in the transition bag. But in Australia, in Busso, they're going to want to check your helmet as you come into transition on Sunday morning. So the helmet is the only thing you don't put in that blue swim to bike transition bag. Everything else for the bike, yes, but your helmet, no, because they want to check that as you come in on Sunday morning.
Perfect. Great. No, that's a good call. I pulled this from was it would have been last year's event guide, but they, as you said, they are transitioning up you're completely right. Compulsory helmet check, so you got to have that. And then we start off at quarter past. I tell my guys, well, how early do you guys? Well, I tell my guys to get early. Again, back to my previous mantra. There's nothing that can't be fixed if you've got an hour or two. What can't be fixed if you turn up and your tires are popped and it's 7 o'clock. You've got to get the race start. Try finding a mechanic to help you. Try to change your tires. That is unbelievably stressful, which will drain all the energy you've nicely built up from your taper. Get there early, smooth, calm, suave. Any other last minute
And
tips?
know how long you're going to take to get there from your accommodation. So figure out how you're going to get there. Are you going to get an Uber? Are you going to get a bus? Are you going to walk? And know how long it's going to take to get there and allow an extra 20% just in case.
Absolutely, all about contingency. Cool. So listen, again, I hope you guys have enjoyed watching the video. Again, as you can tell, Steve is an absolute wealth of knowledge, superb coach. You don't become getting voted Australian Coach of the Year without knowing your stuff. He's proven that today. He's proven it in the other videos if you're checking them out as well. And he's also a bloody nice bloke. So he's happy enough if you throw him any questions, Steve at davidblackfitness.com. He'll end up putting you at rest and all the rest and having a great day. Steve, again, as always, absolute pleasure talking to you. Really enjoy this. I'm still picking up tips and stuff from this, and I've been coaching for X amount of years. It's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. And is there anything you want to say to the gang before we head off?
No, just have a great day on race day. It's going to be a perfect day for a race. And thank you, Steve, for doing these instructional videos for everyone. They're super handy. So make sure you do subscribe to Steve's YouTube channel because they are fantastic for any races you've got coming up.
Thanks very much. All right, guys, that's it from myself and Steve. Have a bloody good race in Western Australia, and let us know how you get on in the comments below.